So, Ian, two quick specifics. Iran, does President Biden, if it happens, try to get us back into a deal with Iran? And the TPP, that Trans-Pacific Partnership, which President Trump moved away from, try to get back into it?
No. On TPP, no. Privately, Biden has discussed that with senior advisors. And even though Biden thinks it's a good idea, and by the way, David, so do I, there's no political capital, no support for it. I mean, among a Democratic Party where the progressives are already feeling like they're going to get nothing because they're not going to have cabinet appointments, you try to get Trans-Pacific Partnership done. Ain't happening. I was talking to the Japanese Prime Minister just a week ago, and this was one of the questions he had for me. And no, I mean, believe me, our allies would love it if the U.S. would come in. It's not going to happen. On the Iranian nuclear deal, the JCPOA, the Biden team would really like to get the Americans back into it. But the question is, would the Iranians accept that? Not clear to me for two reasons. One is that when we did that deal, we unfroze a lot of Iranian assets. Well, that offer is already, it's gone. That horse has left the stable. So we don't have as much leverage to get in. Also, the Iranian elections are coming up in 2021. I don't think the supreme leader is going to want to give a win to the moderates, to the Iranian president in the run-up. So I think it'll be some time and will require some fairly onerous negotiations before we might be able to get back into a new Iranian deal that will look a little different than the old one.
Ian, those of us in the United States are preoccupied, I think it's fair to say, with the election this week. There was another story that was not related to the election that was actually in its own way a very big one. That was the Ant Financial IPO that didn't happen. We have Jack Ma there who were trying to take out Ant Financial. They were on track for a very, very large IPO. And at, I think, the 11th hour, Beijing said, nope, not going to happen. We're going to suspend that. I couldn't figure it out, but then I read about a speech that Jack Ma had given in late October, very critical of the way that Beijing was regulating their financial markets. What is going on there?
Yeah, Jack Ma has upset the chief Chinese regulators and those running economic policy in China, including Wang Qishan, personally. And this is not the first time he's been in the doghouse in China. You remember that he was forced to basically step down from his role in Alibaba and said that he was going to focus on educational issues. And that was also because his wings needed to be clipped from the Communist Party's perspective. So in part, it's because you have this very charismatic, very powerful Chinese entrepreneur in a state capitalist authoritarian system that has no interest in that. But it's also because Ant Financial is the most important fintech company in the world. It's massive in terms of its power and consolidation. And the Chinese government understands that that is strategic to the future of China, especially in an environment where the Americans are going guns blazing against companies like Huawei. I mean, Ant Financial really matters for data. And if we have a technology Cold War, the Americans have the potential to fight that organization. So the Chinese want to make sure that that is doing what the government wants it to do. I think you're right, David. If it wasn't for the U.S. election this week, the decision to basically forestall what would have been the largest IPO in world history is the most important geopolitical issue of the week.